His ex passed away, and a photo album showed up at our door, so I called off our wedding. We'd been together 3 years, engaged, and our wedding was 6 months away. We'd just paid the $15,000 deposit on the venue we'd been saving for. From day one, I had one hard rule about exes. No contact, no pictures kept, no late-night talks about the good old days. He agreed fast and said, "That's done, you're my future." Then on a Thursday at 9:47 p.m., while we watched a cooking show, his phone rang and his face drained. It was his ex's mom. She said his ex had stage 4 skin cancer and maybe 3 months left. She wanted to see him one last time before she couldn't speak. His hands shook around the phone. I wanted to say no, but I couldn't make myself be that cold. So I said yes, but I'm coming too, non-negotiable. That Sunday at 2 p.m., we went to her parents' house. She was 29, bald from chemo, and so thin her cardigan hung off her. She tried to smile, and it looked painful. She told us she'd been diagnosed 2 months before they broke up. She said doctors gave her maybe a year, and she panicked. She didn't want him watching her fade or building a life around hospitals. So she lied and told him she didn't love him anymore to make it clean. I could see his eyes fill up. Then she reached across the coffee table and took his hand. He took it right back. His thumb rubbed circles on her knuckles like it was muscle memory. She whispered, "I never stopped loving you." He whispered, "I know." I sat there feeling like I'd crashed someone else's moment. 3 weeks later, she died. He got the call at work, came home, walked past me, and shut our bedroom door. I heard him sobbing for hours. After that, he moved like a ghost. He'd stare at his phone at dinner. He'd start a sentence, then stop like he forgot I existed. One night I woke up to him crying, trying to keep it quiet. I kept telling myself this would pass. Then last Tuesday at midnight, I got up for water and heard him on the phone with his mom. He said, "We talked about baby names once. She wanted Rose for a girl, James for a boy. We could have had that life." His voice cracked when he said, "We could have been a family." I stood in the hallway with the glass in my hand, frozen. The next day, I tried to ask what he meant. He just said, "I'm tired," and went to work. In 3 years with me, he'd never once talked about kids like that. The next morning, a brown package was on our doorstep. He opened it at the kitchen table while I made coffee. It was from her sister, a leather photo album. He lifted it out carefully and started flipping through. It was hundreds of pictures of them together. Trips, holidays, her face pressed into his neck, both of them laughing. He turned the first page and went completely still. Then he started crying in this soft, almost happy way, like he was reliving it. He smiled through tears and didn't even notice me. Something in me snapped. My mug slipped and shattered on the tile. I started yelling before I even meant to. I told him I felt like a replacement. I told him his dead ex had more space in our relationship than I did. I told him I couldn't marry someone who was still holding on to another life. He finally looked up and whispered, "She's already gone. Please don't leave me too." The word "too" made my stomach drop, like I was just the next loss on his list. I packed a bag, drove to my sister's place, and cried until my face hurt. He called non-stop. He left voicemails begging, saying I was his future, saying he couldn't lose both of us. On day 4, I agreed to meet him back at the apartment because I needed answers. The album was still on the table, closed, like it belonged there. I didn't sit. I asked, "Did you plan a family with her?" He nodded, eyes red. I asked, "Did you ever want that with me? Or was I just what you settled for?" He started talking fast, saying he thought he'd moved on, that he respected my rule, that saying goodbye and seeing the photos broke him open. He reached for my hand and said, "I love you. I want to marry you." I pulled back and said, "I need a partner who chooses me all the way, not someone who's still living in a life I can't compete with." He whispered, "I'm choosing you." I looked at the album, then at the ring on my finger, and all I could see was him smiling at pictures of another woman. I slid the ring off, set it beside the album, and said, "The wedding's off." He made this raw sound and grabbed for the ring, but I was already walking out. I closed the door and didn't turn around. Now everyone's saying I was cruel for returning the ring. Was I wrong?